Today, I'll share the tale of a silent warrior, a man who, with unwavering precision, quietly altered the course of a brutal war. His name was Vasily Zaitsev. In the frozen hell of Russia's battlefield, he took down 225 enemy soldiers, one shot at a time, in just a matter of weeks. But he wasn't just a sniper, he was fear itself, a ghost whose bullets spoke louder than any sound. Now close your eyes and feel the story of this unyielding fighter, a man whose every breath carved a line in history. The story begins in the icy wilderness of Siberia, Russia, with a young boy named Vasily. Beside him stood his grandfather, gripping an old sniper rifle. It wasn't just a weapon in his hands, it was a lesson in survival. He was teaching the boy how to hunt. A little farther off, they had tied up a horse, bait to draw in the wolves, lured by the scent of blood. Vasily's task was simple in words but heavy in weight. Wait, aim, and pull the trigger at just the right moment. But when the wolves finally appeared, fear gripped the boy. His hands shook, the shot missed, and the cost of that single mistake? Their horse, torn apart by the wolves right before his eyes. That day, Vasily learned something he would never forget. One wrong shot can change everything. Suddenly, the scene shifts. The camera rushes forward through time, into the heart of 1942's battlefield. Hitler had already swallowed most of Europe, and now he was turning his gaze to Russia, his next conquest, his next prize. And that's when we see him again. That familiar face, Vasily. But he's no longer a frightened boy. War has carved the child out of him. Now he's a soldier, a symbol, a weapon born of desperation and courage, the pride of the Russian army. Hitler's eyes were locked on Russia's vast oil fields, the lifeblood of power. If he could seize them, he could tighten his grip on the entire world. But between him and that dream stood a city, Stalingrad. If that city didn't fall, Russia wouldn't either. And so began a merciless war. The ground shook with the echo of bombs. The sky drowned in smoke, and the streets ran red with blood. Russian soldiers had already flooded the city. Their eyes burned with fire. Their hearts carried a single oath. No one will take this land from us. Right then, amidst the rubble and fire, a Russian commander roared above the chaos, his voice sharp, cold, unshakable. You weren't sent here just to fight. You were sent here to save your homeland. This isn't a choice, it's a duty, a vow. If any of you dare to retreat, know this. Your own comrades will shoot you down. There is only one way to survive here. Shoot before they do. Kill them or be killed. One by one, the Russian soldiers were loaded onto small boats, pushed toward the far bank of the Volga River, where German forces had already torn through the city like a storm of steel. But as the boats drifted forward, the soldiers saw what waited in the water, lifeless bodies of their own brothers floating in silence, a warning written in blood. Suddenly, the sky split apart with the roar of German planes. Bullets rained down, bombs followed, screams rose, boats shattered, and the river was swallowed in panic and fire. In seconds, many boats were dragged beneath the waves, and more than half the men never made it to the shore. Yet fate favored Vasily. He survived, and for those few who reached land, another cruel truth was waiting. Senior officers stood at the bank, holding a handful of weapons, not nearly enough for the soldiers before them. Worry shadowed their eyes. Supplies were low, ammunition almost gone. So the commander shouted, loud enough to pierce the fear, "One rifle for every 2 men. If one falls, the other takes the weapon. We may be running out of guns, but we will not run out of courage. If you want to fight, you'll have to kill a German and take his weapon." The battlefield had now turned into a graveyard, a place where death felt closer than breath. And among the soldiers, the divide was cruelly clear. Some had rifles, others had nothing. Vasily stood in the crowd of hundreds, but in his hands, nothing. Not a single weapon had come his way. The rifle had gone to his close friend standing beside him, while Vasily received only a few loose bullets, not to fire, but to hold on to, as a reminder that hope was still alive. And then came the command. The Russian officer raised his arm. No more waiting, no turning back. Advance. The order struck like thunder. A wave of Russian soldiers surged forward, rushing head-on into the German front. But the Germans, they were a wall of fire. Armed with machine guns, mortars, and grenades, they unleashed a storm, bullets tearing through the air like lightning, explosions shaking the earth like thunder. Even before the real fight began, many Russian soldiers fell. No screams, no last words, just silence. Among them was Vasily's friend, And then, without hesitation, Vasily ran straight to his fallen friend. His eyes didn't weep. His heart didn't waver. Only one instinct burned inside him: survive. He reached for the rifle, but just before he could grab it, another soldier snatched it from his grasp and disappeared into the chaos. Vasily was left empty-handed, and all around him bullets screamed, flames rose, and death came rushing in waves. The Russian forces were breaking. Panic cracked their resolve, and then they began to retreat, running not with courage but with fear clutched to their chests. But just then, a new horror began to unfold. From behind, the crack of Russian gunfire echoed through the air. But this time, the bullets weren't meant for the Germans. They were meant for their own, for those who tried to run. Those who turned their backs on the front line were shot dead by Russian commanders, without warning, without mercy. The commander's earlier words now came true like a curse. If you retreat from war, death will find you first. Caught between German fire in front and Russian bullets from behind, the battlefield became something else entirely. A massive, open grave, bodies everywhere. Russian soldiers, still in their uniforms, lay silent beneath the smoke and rubble. The ground didn't bleed anymore. It simply held what was left. German forces marched forward, stepping over the dead as if they were dust. And soon, they seized full control of the city of Stalingrad. For a moment, the chaos gave way to a chilling stillness. The guns paused. The sky stopped screaming. Amid the ruins, among the shattered bricks and blood-soaked streets, lay rows of fallen soldiers, their lifeless eyes still frozen with fear and the pain of a war they couldn't escape. And in the middle of this graveyard of men, a military vehicle slowly crept forward, its wheels grinding through blood and mud. The low rumble of the engine made the nearby German troops shift uneasily, eyes narrowing, fingers twitching near their triggers. They didn't hesitate. The moment they saw the vehicle, the Germans opened fire without mercy. Bullets tore through metal, and in seconds the car exploded into a fireball. The ground shook with the blast, and from the flames, a body flew out, a Russian officer named Danilov. Danny wasn't a frontline soldier. His job was to deliver newspapers, orders, and updates to the troops. But now, he had landed in the middle of a war zone where paper couldn't save him. By sheer luck, he survived the explosion. But as smoke cleared, the danger only crept closer. German soldiers, now aware, were almost upon him. Danny ran for his life, throwing himself into the pile of corpses nearby. He buried himself under the dead, motionless, breath held, pretending to be one of them. But the Germans weren't stupid. They were brutal, suspicious. They sprayed bullets across the lifeless bodies, just to be sure no one was hiding. Bullets sliced through the air, ripping into flesh around him. Some missed by inches. Danny clenched his eyes shut, his breath trapped in his throat. Then, the smell hit him, the stench of death, rotten, thick. It wrapped around him like fog, pushed down into his lungs, and he couldn't take it. He gagged. He vomited right there into the corpses, his body betraying his fear. Still, he didn't move, didn't run, because running meant dying. Just then, his eyes caught something. A few meters away, inside an abandoned German camp, a German commander was bathing, naked, exposed, unbothered by the war that was swallowing the city whole, as if nothing could touch him. Danny stared. Rage flooded his chest, fear mixed with fury, and that's when he saw it, a discarded rifle lying nearby. His hand trembled toward it. He aimed. One shot. That's all it would take. But just then, the pile of corpses beneath him shifted. A body moved, then sat up. It was Vasily. He reached out silently, gripping Danny's hand tight before he could shoot. Softly, calmly, he whispered, "Not now. If you fire that shot, they'll hear it, and they'll come. And then you're dead too." Vasily leaned closer, his voice like steel in a storm. "Wait. When the next bomb drops or a missile hits, fire. Then the explosion will cover the sound, and they'll never know what hit them." Danny stood still for a while, his face pale with fear, because he knew, even if he took the shot and killed the German commander, the guards nearby would still be alive, and they'd hunt him down without mercy. So slowly, with shaking hands, he passed the rifle to Vasily, because deep down, he trusted Vasily to know the right moment to fire. The screen falls into silence. The camera drifts through the shadows of the German camp, over the anxious faces of Danny and Vasily, both waiting like ghosts in the dark. Far away, muffled booms echo in the distance. The war hasn't ended. It's only holding its breath, ready to strike again. Vasily lies motionless under corpses, his eyes closed, his ears sharp, counting every sound. One mistake, one wrong move, and he's gone. His finger is tight on the trigger. He waits for that one sound, a massive blast that'll rip through the sky and hide the sound of death beneath it. Then, finally, it comes. A missile slams into a building just a few hundred meters away. The ground trembles. The sky screams. Vasily fires. One clean shot, and the German commander collapses to the ground, dead. The guards around him don't even react. They don't know where it came from, don't even suspect. To them, it's just another casualty of chaos. Then, more bombs fall in the distance. Using the thunder of war as his cover, Vasily takes aim again and again. One by one, the guards drop before they even know they're under attack. Danny watches from afar, his heart pounding, his eyes widen with awe, his chest swelling with respect. Because in that silence, in that perfect calm and deadly precision, he saw something else. A hero. When the gunfire stopped, Danny didn't waste a second. He rushed Vasily back to Russian headquarters. And by the next morning, the whole army knew. One Russian sniper kills 5 German soldiers and a commander alone. The headlines spread like wildfire. Vasily's courage lit a fire in the hearts of every soldier. And when Vasily saw it himself, saw the impact his actions had, something changed in him. He stood taller. He looked beyond just survival. Now he knew his life had a purpose. He wasn't just a man with a gun. He was fighting to protect his country. But just as hope flickered, a shadow entered headquarters. A man named Christov, Stalin's envoy. His face was hard, his voice colder than steel. He stormed into the commander's office, stood face to face, and growled, "Your tactics are a disaster. Our men are dying before they even get to fire a single bullet. And then you turn your guns on your own soldiers. If Stalin hears about this, you'll be executed like a dog. No trial, no honor, just a bullet in the back." Christov placed the pistol gently in the commander's hand, then turned and walked out of the room in silence. Moments later, a single gunshot cracked through the air. The soldiers nearby froze. They didn't need to look. They already knew. The commander had taken his own life. Soon after, Christov stood before all the troops, his voice firm, his presence commanding. "We must take back Stalingrad," he said. "But this time, our strategy will change." The soldiers stood still, their faces hollow from everything they'd endured. Then quietly, Danny stepped forward. "Sir," he said, "I believe forcing men to fight is not the answer. Instead, we should honor those who choose to fight for their country. Give them recognition, promotions, gifts. Let every soldier know Russia will never turn its guns on its own. Russia will always stand beside them." There was a pause. Then, a flicker of admiration sparked in Christov's eyes. He nodded slowly and replied, "From this moment on, that will be our new way forward." Without delay, he made the first official announcement, a promotion for the 2 brave soldiers who inspired them all, Danny and Vasily. Danny sprinted to find Vasily, his eyes gleaming with joy. "Vasily," he shouted, out of breath. "We got promoted, both of us." A quiet smile spread across Vasily's face. In his eyes, not pride, but something deeper, a promise, a vow to give everything for the land he called home. After receiving his promotion, Vasily returns to the battlefield with renewed purpose. There, he takes out 33 German soldiers with deadly precision. He also exposes the failures of 13 German commanders, leading to their immediate dismissal. His actions quickly make headlines once again, and the story spreads like wildfire among the troops. Reading about his bravery, the Russian forces begin to regain hope, and Vasily becomes a symbol of courage. One day, while setting his scope on a German officer, something unexpected happens. A small child steps into his line of sight. The shot is ruined. That child, named Robin, is a Russian boy who had read about Vasily in the newspaper. To him, Vasily wasn't just a soldier, he was a hero. Moved by admiration, Robin convinces Vasily to come to his home. There, Robin's mother greets the soldier warmly, grateful to meet the man who had inspired her son and so many others across the country. Vasily was cared for with great attention. After a while, Danny brought along another girl named Tanya. Tanya wasn't a soldier, but she secretly helped injured fighters and protected the ordinary people of Russia. Danny loved Tanya, but in her eyes, Vasily's bravery was the greatest attraction. Meanwhile, news reached the German commander that their best sniper, Koenig, had arrived. He warned that a single Russian marksman was so dangerous that he had killed 40 German soldiers in secret attacks. Hearing this, Koenig burned with rage and immediately took up arms to fight. On the first day, he killed 5 Russian shooters, causing fear to spread that a deadly sniper had come. Vasily was sleeping when his friends rushed in to say some German soldiers had broken into the storage area. Taking his rifle, Vasily went there and fired at a distant soldier. Later, they realized it was a dummy, a trap set by Koenig. Koenig shot one of his own friends and Vasily hid nearby. He spotted a cigarette on the ground, which told him a sniper was somewhere close. At the same time, the Germans began bombing Stalingrad from the air, trying to destroy the city. In the chaos, one of Vasily's friends tried to escape, but Koenig shot him dead. Vasily stayed hidden and waited for the right moment to flee. Koenig was seen having his shoes cleaned and reading a newspaper by a boy named Robin. Robin, looking at Vasily's photo, said, "I'm a big fan of Vasily. He's very brave. I've even met him." Hearing this, Koenig made a plan. Back at the army headquarters, Vasily was helped by another sniper named Kalikov, who was no less dangerous than Koenig. From Danny, Vasily learned just how deadly Koenig was, having killed nearly 400 people with a single shot. The news scared Vasily deeply, but Danny promised to share secret information about Koenig's location, giving Vasily a bit of hope and courage to face what was ahead. Vasily got word from his new partner, Kaylee, that some German soldiers were advancing toward their quarters. Instantly, they grabbed their weapons and moved into position. First, they targeted the German communication wires, shooting them to cut off any calls for backup. But then they noticed a soldier quietly trying to fix the wires. However, it wasn't actually a German. It was a Russian soldier disguised in German uniform, captured and sent by Koenig. The Russians didn't know this, so Kaylee fired and killed him. Trying to stay safe, they moved to another spot. Kelly hung a helmet by the window, hoping if Koenig was nearby, he'd shoot at it. But Koenig saw through the trick and stayed silent. Kali realized Koenig wasn't around, and if they tried to escape, he'd kill them from a distance. Vasily barely survived and returned to their camp, but he was frustrated. He thought maybe he'd never defeat Koenig. Meanwhile, Koenig came back to Robin, the little boy, to clean his shoes. He gave Robin some chocolates and learned key details about Vasily, like which building he'd visit next. Koenig went ahead to wait in another building, knowing Vasily would arrive. Vasily got there carefully, aware Koenig could attack any moment. He sneaked along the ventilation pipes, but Koenig was watching even those. When one of Vasily's friends tried to exit through the vent, Koenig shot him dead. Vasily hid behind an engine, lost his gun while running, and told his friend to escape to the camp. Then he tried to use a knife to pull his gun with a rope, but Koenig shot the rope and cut it. Vasily was trapped. Suddenly, German planes started bombing from above. A shard of glass broke and fell right in front of Vasily. Koenig's eyes locked on the reflection. Vasily's injured comrade returned to camp and told Tanya everything, how Vasily was in danger. Hearing this, Tanya decided to go save him. Danny noticed Tanya's determination and sensed she had special feelings for Vasily, but the risk was huge. Tanya could die too. Danny tried to stop her, but Tanya wouldn't give up. Tanya sneaked through the ventilation pipes to reach Vasily, but Vasily stopped her from coming out and silently signaled her to watch Koenig. He handed her a piece of glass to hold so she could catch Koenig's movements from afar. Tanya did as told. The flicker of light on the glass made Koenig momentarily careless. Just then, Vasily lunged forward and opened fire. When Vasily returned to camp, everyone erupted in joy. He had just landed a perfect shot on Koenig, but inside, Vasily felt heavy. He told Danny he didn't want his picture in the newspapers. He just wanted to fight quietly, like any other soldier, without the spotlight. Danny explained gently, "You're not just any soldier, Vasily. You're a skilled sniper. Every time your success makes the news, thousands of our soldiers find courage." Danny then called over a boy named Robin. Actually, Danny was using Robin as a spy, but Robin was secretly trying to gather German secrets from Major Koenig. Hearing this, Vasily grew angry. Robin was just a child, and risking his life was wrong. Proud, Robin said, "Whenever Koenig comes to me, his shoes have some chemicals on the soles. They must be camping at the local chemical factory." Quietly, Vasily went to that chemical factory to wait for Koenig, but exhaustion overtook him, and he fell asleep. Meanwhile, Major Koenig slipped away unnoticed. Vasily missed his chance. Suddenly, German soldiers launched a brutal attack on the Russian camp. They rained bullets mercilessly, killing many soldiers, including Vasily. At the same time, a German soldier started stealing money and valuables from the pockets of the dead. Koenig, watching nearby, saw Vasily lying wounded. As he moved in to finish him off, the thief stumbled right in front of him. The other soldiers caught the thief and searched him, finding Vasily's ID card. Seeing the ID, everyone assumed Vasily was dead. Major Koenig ended his mission there, the German commander ordering him to leave the camp. Vasily was believed dead, and the job was done. But when Russia's new commander, Christoph, heard of Vasily's death, he nearly lost his mind. Then Danny revealed the truth. The whole thing was a clever ruse by Vasily. He had faked his death to keep the Germans from becoming overly cautious so they could strike harder. Still, the commander worried. Morale among their troops had dropped sharply after hearing the news. On German radio, Vasily's death was broadcast widely. Tanya, listening, was overcome with grief. Danny said nothing, quietly watching her sorrow. Koenig hadn't left Russia yet. He kept coming to Robin to clean his shoes. But one day, Robin broke down crying. The news of his hero Vasily's death had crushed him. Koenig tried to comfort him, saying, "Don't cry, Robin. I know your hero Vasily is still alive. Tomorrow morning, come to the train station. I will introduce you to him." Robin told Danny, who secretly passed the message to Vasily. The next morning, Vasily waited at the station for Koenig. Tanya arrived to help him. Surprised, Vasily asked, "How did you find out I was alive?" Tanya said, "I heard it from Robin. When I heard on the radio that you were dead, I was heartbroken. I love you so much. I never want to lose you." At that moment, they came close, closer than ever before. Robin arrived at the station just as Koenig had instructed, but Koenig was really there to kill him. He had realized Robin was spying for the Russians. Koenig killed Robin and hung his body in a pipe. Tanya was shattered, screaming and crying. Vasily comforted her and promised to avenge Robin by killing Koenig. He told Tanya to return to camp. Meanwhile, the Germans prepared to attack the Russian camp. To save the civilians, they were sent by boat across the river. Among them was Robin's mother, who refused to leave without her son. Danny lied to her, saying Robin had secretly joined the Germans to stop her from going mad with grief. Back at camp, Tanya was badly injured by a missile strike. Robin's mother helped carry her across the river for treatment. She left a letter for her son saying she had crossed over and asking him to come find her if he ever read it. Though she didn't know he never would, Danny struggled to reach Vasily and told him Tanya had died from her wounds. Hearing this, Vasily broke down in tears. Danny decided it was time to kill Koenig. He risked his life and came out into the open. Koenig shot him, believing he had killed Vasily's ally. Koenig stepped out to check, and Vasily ambushed him, capturing him. Major Koenig knew he was dying. He saluted Vasily with respect, but Vasily pulled the trigger, ending Koenig's life. Then, holding Koenig's rifle, Vasily honored Danny by placing it on his fallen friend's body. 2 months later, the Russian army defeated the Germans and captured Stalingrad. When the war ended, Vasily returned to the hospital and found his beloved Tanya alive. They spent the rest of their lives together. To honor his bravery, Russian leader Stalin preserved Vasily's rifle in the Stalin Museum, where it remains to this day. Based on a true story, the tale of this hero ends here.